Yeah. Okay, I'm unmuted. So far I only have Rob. Oh wait, see waiting room. Okay. Oh, Mr. 80. Fraser. Jason Anchor. Corey. Oh gosh, there's all sorts of people.
Very involved student.
Okay.
Should probably see Angie on there.
Yep, she's on. I can hear somebody echoing. So if you're not muted, make sure you're okay. Okay. All right. I think everybody there's about 20 or so people, 19 people on. So I'm gonna leave it running. It's recording.
My school one, for some reason. That's what I had to have you. I figured. I mean, I don't know why. What does it say?
So we were in.
Yep, I think we're. Yep.
So now I'm looking, oh my God.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. First item this evening is a public hearing to discuss a resolution to continue participation in the instructional support program. So I'll call that public hearing to order. Anybody on Zoom that would like to discuss that or have questions on it, now would be the time to key in on that. Julie, if you just want to go over quick, I mean, it's just a continuation of the program we've had in the past. So if you just want to speak
It's
to
just a
that.
continuation of instructional support levy. It will not raise taxes. It will just keep them the same as they are. It provides us with about $150,000 each year for the general fund. And as you know, 80 to 85% of the general fund is salaries. And so if we didn't have the instructional support levy, it would be quite a detriment to the district. I don't believe that there is not one school in the state of Iowa who doesn't have the instructional support levy. It generally goes for 10 years, and we're just about up, run out of time for our 10 years. So we are looking to go to special election September 8th.
So this will basically put it on the ballot, correct?
Yes.
Establish it.
Yep. This resolution here that we'll be passing in the meeting is to tell the county auditor to call for an election.
Okay, anybody on Zoom have anything to add, questions, anything on the instructional support levy? That's the public hearing we're in right now.
If you have anything, hit the raise hand button on your Zoom link or put something in the chat, because currently everyone is muted. I don't see anything.
Any
Oh,
board
wait,
members?
someone did.
Okay.
Joel, let's see. Okay, Joel, you are unmuted.
Yes, you're saying this was available for asking questions. Is that just about in reference to what you were just talking about, or as far as the reopening plan?
Oh, that'll be in just a little bit. This is just for this bond or the election thing. And then when we get to that part, we'll open it back up.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, any other questions for the public hearing?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing at this time? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Public hearing's adjourned. Okay, we'll now move into our regular board meeting. I'll call that meeting to order. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I do want to switch around the order of a few things. I was going to talk about the return to learn plan later, but I want to move that up to just before the public forum. So I can go through our plan. So
Okay.
then when we're done with it, then if people have questions, they can follow up.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda's approved. Move into the consent items. Do we have any questions or comments on those? Be
You'll
the
notice that.
bills and prepaids. and
Yeah,
that.
you'll notice the prepaids, there's quite a few of those because we were at year end, and so we have to get as many of our June bills that we have on hand into that current year, so.
So what's the difference, Dave? There's several on it that were judges rather than, or was that something with fine arts, or instead of like a official, there were several people there. that
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
Judges.
Yeah, it was
A
speech.
speech.
They did it
That's
on,
right.
actually online, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Central States Roofing, is that which
Part of our construction project.
What's Color Inc. Pay App 14?
Yep, that's
They-
part of our
the paint.
construction, so whenever you see that pay app 14, this is the 14th time that I've paid our construction contractors. And so Color Inc. are the people that paint.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
And then on that monthly expenditure chart that we have, why is there none this whole year? There's nothing for pre-kindergarten. There's not a line there for.
Yep, that's it. It's actually in our elementary now. Because this year, this past year, we had to, according to the Department of Ed, we had to take their codes for the elementary building and then their codes for the or secondary building.
Oh, okay. So
And so they fall under the elementary building. Yep. Does anybody want to talk about that? About the, I'll talk about it. If you want to take a look-see at your, the monthly expenditure report, because we're through the end of the fiscal year, I completed the expenditures. There will be a little bit of fluctuation in this as we continue to get a few bills in that we have to post back to the fiscal year 1920, but it'll be very, very little. So I'm happy to say that we were under budget by just under $198,000, which is awesome. We've never been under, I think the most we've been under budget is maybe 50,000, I think. So generally, I'm pretty good at hitting it. So generally it's 10,000 or less, but there was like one time that we got some extra money, and so then it skewed the expenditures, but, that's a big savings. Of course, it's to the COVID-19 for the most part. While we did have some expenditures that, we continued to pay, salaries of the at-will employees for the first, I believe, through April 30th. And then after April 30th, they were to apply for unemployment. They're still getting paid through the unemployment. So those expenditures stay on. So we say it's probably about a month's worth in a month to 6 weeks in at-will employees expenditures. Obviously, we didn't have supplies that we were, ordering at that time that we were needing, or, things like that. And so if there's a positive in this, that's what I would say it is. So,
But don't start counting on it because
it's
COVID's going to be expensive when we open back up.
Probably utilities and that probably reflected a little bit.
A little
more,
bit,
just,
a little bit.
It wasn't
Yeah, no,
much.
transportation, we weren't going to extracurriculars. Yeah, and buses, and obviously the majority of it would be payroll, paying our drivers, paying our parents, paying our part-time employees, paying, just all of our at-will employees. So, yeah. For those that were contracted, we continued to pay them throughout their contract, even coaches, because we had already taxed our constituents for that money. So we had already planned on paying them. So we just felt that it was right to pay them.
Any other questions or comments on the consent items? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent items? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent items are approved. Next item on the agenda is correspondence.
We do have one bit of correspondence this month. It's a letter that I received from Mrs. Ritter, Cheryl Ritter, and she was just addressing some concerns that were noted in our audit. And it was about the lack of segregation of duties and expenditures exceeding budgeted amounts and questionable distributions. And she just wanted to make me aware of a letter she had sent several years ago before I was on the staff. And as always, in a small district, it's really hard to segregate duties, but we are constantly working to make our procedures even better and to make sure everything is transparent. So I appreciate her letter bringing this to our attention, and Julie and Deb and I are working on it. So, okay, any questions about that? Okay.
Doesn't look like we have early learning center minutes or
They must take the summer off, do they? Because
I think probably-
probably jumbled up a little bit with the
them being closed.
closed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're quite.
Or, well, no, they did meet, but yeah. That's right. They did meet.
Okay,
we
we'll
haven't had them for a few months.
move on in the agenda to our return to learn plan. So Dr. Clapper, if you'd like to
All right. So
address that.
you bet. I'm going to start this. I'm going to try and do a screen sharing. So, Corey or somebody, let me know if you can see that. Can you see it? Okay. So I'm just going to go through this sort of quickly just to give some background. And then everyone online, you can just listen. And then when I'm all finished, we'll open it up for questions. So here is our Return to Learn plan. Just as some background for those of you that don't know, all Iowa schools were required to have a Return to Learn plan, and we had to submit something by July 1st. And that plan just ensured that we would have school in some way in the fall. There was a few basic criteria, but it wasn't really the nuts and bolts of how we're actually going to open up school. And then the second plan that everyone is required to start now is the reopening schools plan. And so that's the one that talks about, are we going to be on site, or are we going to be online, all that. So there's a little confusion. We'll use the return to learn as the word, but it's actually two different plans. So the plans cover three major categories: on-site learning, online or continuous learning, and then a hybrid of both learning models. And then there's also going to be some new board policies that we're going to have to adopt tonight, because these situations have just never happened before. And many of these policies will just be in place through December 31st, and then we will have to re-up them if we need them again, but they will expire. So want to make sure that everyone understands that the reopening schools plans are a draft, because this situation is constantly changing. And these are some factors that could cause us to change: governor proclamations, Iowa Department of Education guidance, public health guidance, Jasper County Public Health, or our local decisions. And I also want people to understand that this plan that we've put together was developed by a team. It had teachers, administrators, parents, the school nurse, and some public health officials, custodial staff, nutrition staff, Deb. I mean, we had a big group helping to develop this plan. So it wasn't just me in my office coming up with this idea. Next thing I'm going to talk about, it's just for this might get a little bit into the weeds for some of the parents on the Zoom right now, but I just want to make sure the teachers who are on the Zoom right now understand some of these new board policies. The one that could potentially impact teachers or staff members is the new emergency leave. So if there happened to be a student, or for some reason a teacher had to quarantine due to COVID, they would be eligible for full pay for 2 weeks for the 14 days that they had to quarantine, or the 10 work days that they had to quarantine. Then also, if they had to quarantine for one of their family members or something like that it wasn't directly related to something that happened here at school, but like, let's say their child goes to a different school and they had to quarantine, they would be eligible for up to 2/3 of their pay. And then if they have personal or sick leave or any of that available, they can use that in like 1/3 of a day increments to fill in the gaps. And this is all new federal CARES Act regulations. And then a second policy that could apply to staff is it's the expanded FLMA, and that could last for up to 12 weeks. And that's if they have a child or someone in their house that they need to take care of. So the first 2 weeks are unpaid, and then the last 10 weeks are paid at a 2/3 rate, but the staff can use any accumulated leaves that they have to cover those first 2 weeks, or for as many days as they have, they could fill in the gaps of those 1/3 days if they're available. So I just wanted to make sure staff knew, because, we talked about, well, what happens if a student in a teacher's class gets sick and then that class has to quarantine? Well, it doesn't feel right for us to say, well, if that teacher's got her or his sick leave saved up, they just have to use that, because it's not them being sick, it's them being asked to quarantine by us. So that's what this policy, the federal policies are in to protect staff members. And then the next one, student absences. This is for online school. So we've never offered online school before. So while we believe that traditional in-person school is the best place for learning to happen, we also understand that in this situation, there will be some kids who can't be at school. And so during remote learning, what we're planning, the Department of Education is, they haven't released it yet, but they're putting out some online curriculum that we can use at the high school level. And then the AEAs are putting out online curriculum that we can use at the elementary level. And they assure they'll have it to us soon, but that can be used for the online learning platform for families that need to be online. And right now we have there'll be a form. I think that maybe is the next one is the form that they'll have to fill out. And if you have a medical reason that you have to online learn, you can fill out this form and a doctor can sign it. And that can be for anyone who has an online learning situation. If you personally just don't feel comfortable and you want to do this online platform, as it is right now, we're planning to allow that. But I want people to know, please note, this is subject to change. and could only be used for students with medical conditions that would need doctor approval. The state legislation or the state legislature is currently debating this, and they're talking about whether or not they're going to allow students to opt out. So as it sits right now, we can offer this online option, but if they change their policy, which they are talking about, we hope that it doesn't happen, but if that happens, parents will have to choose either on-site, or if they have a medical condition, they could do the online learning. But if they don't have a medical condition, they just as a family don't feel safe about it, they would have to do homeschooling, and that would be on the parents. So I just want people, that is not our hope or anything like that. We hope to offer both platforms, the online for the families that want online and in person for the families that want in person. But you just need to know that that is a possibility, because the House and Senate are currently kind of discussing that option.
But if they choose the online, they have to do it the whole semester.
Right. So if they choose online, it'll be for the semester. And we'll get to that when I start talking about the plans. But so anyway, that's okay. This board policy anyway, just is that we will allow online learning for someone who needs it. And then the next one is the school days one. This one is just saying that the board will agree to count the hours if we have to close for COVID. We used to, we've just never had this before, so we just have to adopt that policy. And then the next one, 60313, is the appropriate use of online learning platforms. This is just kind of an online behavior, like things that wouldn't be allowed in the classroom won't be allowed online. Bullying won't be allowed online, just like it would be in the classroom. Anything like disrespectful or, anything that, like if we were in school on site, we would expect the same behavior from kids online. So that's just that policy. And these are all new board policies that have been brought to us by IASB. That's Iowa Association of School Boards. And the last policy is, this just gives the superintendent authority to close school due to COVID, rather than us having to convene a board meeting every time we need to close school, which hopefully is not ever, but just in case, this just shifts the authority to me so that we don't have to work through you guys. Okay, so that's just the board policies. So this is probably what a lot of the non-teachers are zooming in to listen about. So we've got two plans for the fall. We'll have our default plan is to have students learn on-site when school starts on August 24th, normal school. We'll have obviously some safety precautions, but on-site school. Our other option is learning online from home for the first semester, but those little stars indicate, like that's what I was saying, this could change if the legislation changes. But parents are gonna have to make the choice before school starts. There'll be a form that needs to be filled out and turned in for families that are choosing option 2. The district will send out an email in the next couple of weeks, and then a survey that you just check, yes, like my kid's name, on-site, online. And then if there's an outbreak of COVID and a group of students need to learn from home for a period of time, they'll have distance learning or continual learning model implemented similar to what we used in the spring. So let's say, a third grade class, the kids are here at school just learning online, and for some reason that third grade class has to shut down and has to quarantine. They'll go home for 2 weeks along with their teacher, but they'll do the distance learning, but they'll just kind of pick up where they left off when they were in class. So they won't all of a sudden shift over to that online platform, because that online platform is different. It's not necessarily matched day to day with our Baxter teachers. It's probably the project we're probably going to get is Edgenuity. And so it's online online teachers, Iowa teachers, but it's not our Iowa teacher. So it wouldn't be our third grade teacher doing it. It's a third grade teacher in Iowa. So it matches up with the Iowa core standards, but it doesn't necessarily match day to day with what we're doing here. That's why we have to commit to a semester.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So we are, and when I get to the online plan, I'll talk a little more about it, but I just need people to know that. So if there's an outbreak and we use that hybrid plan, that's for the kids who got sent home from school to learn for 2 weeks. Or if we have to shut down the whole school, then like all the kids that are home that were on-site kids will then learn at home, but it'll be similar to spring, except for that it will be required. So, you'll Zoom in with your teachers and all those sorts of things. So our on-site plan, so we plan to have a normal schedule, start at normal time, end at normal time. Students and staff will be required to wear masks or face shields in any situation where they can't maintain social distancing. And Jasper County Public Health considers social distancing closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. So if you can't be within those parameters, you need to have a mask on. So what we're saying is, I don't want people to misunderstand that from the moment kids walk in the building to the moment they leave, that they're gonna have a mask on the whole time. That's just not the case. So what we plan is that in any places where they're congregating, like in the halls, we'll ask kids to have their mask on during passing time. Or if they're at the elementary level, if they're up at the front on the carpet with their teacher, they'll have their mask on. If they're just at their desk or their table spot and they're spread out and they're just working and they're 3 to 6 feet apart, they can take their mask off and work at their spot. If they want to get up and walk around the room, they need to put it on. So we understand it's going to be hard for little ones to have this on. It's hard for all of us, but we also understand that it's just so important to try and just mitigate the spread of this. So that's why we're going to require the mask. And people could also use a face shield if they would prefer. Especially, we understand people are concerned about elementary, like the teachers. You know, little ones need to be able to see their teacher's mouth when they're making phonic sounds. So if elementary teachers want to have a mask, or a shield instead of a mask, that's fine. Public health, when we talked to them, said they're both fine as long as the shield like comes down below the chin and like around the sides of the face. So you just can't have your shield on and then have it like lifted way up. It has to be in the spot that it's supposed to be, just like the mask has to be in the spot that it's supposed to be. But they also indicated that the very most important thing that we can do is make sure people are washing hands continually. So when we come into the building, we're gonna expect that everyone washes hands or hand sanitizes, and we'll have plenty of sanitizer all over the building. When you come into the building, you sanitize. When you go in and out of classrooms, in between classes, we want people to sanitize. Teachers at the elementary level are gonna work breaks into the day that kids will wash hands and hand sanitize. We'll of course do it before lunch. So we will just really work that in as much as possible. It's just, our main goal is just to keep our building open. And the best way to do it is what public health told us, is to make sure hands are clean. So hands are clean, masks are on. We're also moving on to the next bullet. We're going to limit visitors. We understand that it's important to get people in our building, but at this time, we're just going to limit visitors for this first semester. So only critical people that need to be in our building will be in our building. And then as far as like the details of like the lunchroom process and recess and passing time, the 2 building principals are going to work with their building leadership teams to develop those protocols, but just know that they're working on that the next few weeks. Let's see. Okay. So then we also visited with public health, and they talked to us about contact, not contract tracing, and quarantining if there's an outbreak. So here's what we know today, but this of course can change, but as of right now today, this is what we know. If there's a presumed positive person, that means someone that they live with has tested positive, but that person themselves aren't necessarily showing any symptoms, and they haven't actually been tested. They just live in the same house with someone who has COVID, so they presume them to have COVID. That person must stay home for 14 days. If there's an actual positive in the class, the whole class, students and staff, that class is out for 2 weeks. So if, you know, Mrs. Workentine happens to have someone in her class that tests positive, Mrs. Workentine and all her first graders will be quarantined for a week. That doesn't mean all the first 2 weeks, 2 weeks, sorry, 2 weeks. So they'll all be quarantined for 2 weeks, but Mrs. Bishop's first graders can still keep going. So we're gonna try and limit the cohort mixing as much as possible, just to limit exposure. So, you know, we're gonna try and bring our special teachers into the classroom as much as possible. We're just gonna not have the kids mixing as much as possible. And we completely understand that this is going to be so much harder at the middle school and high school, because they're all moving, they're all mixing. So like if a sophomore, if Troy Clapper tests positive for COVID, well, every kid that's been in his class is potentially exposed. So we understand that it could shut down the middle school and high school a lot quicker. So that's why we're so critical about wash your hands and wear your masks and try and keep us as safe as possible, because none of us want to shut the building. We all want to keep school open as much as possible. Okay, just a few more details. If someone tests positive for COVID-19, they must be 7 days without symptoms and 3 days fever-free with no medication before they come back to school. And public health has also told us that any student, regardless of if it's COVID or for any reason, if they have a fever, they are not allowed back the building for 72 hours. And usually our policy was 24, but they said with just this year, our policy has to be 72 hours. And parents, I know it's hard, but this is critical. Do not give your children Tylenol or Advil and send them to school. Like to mask their fever. That's the kind of stuff that will shut us down. So if you don't want to have to miss work for 14 days, keep them home, keep their fevers down. It's so critical. I just want everyone to understand that we cannot come to school sick. We don't expect workers or staff members to come to school sick. It's not a badge of honor to come sick anymore. Like, just if you are sick, stay home. Like I said, our goal is to limit the spread of COVID in order to keep our school open, but it's going to take everyone following these safety rules to keep our doors open as long as possible. And Jasper County public health officials have been wonderful to work with so far, and they've talked about they will help us with the contact tracing and helping inform families if someone's been exposed. Okay. So online, the option 2, I kind of went through some of this already, but Heartland and the Department of Education are going to help us with an online learning platform for those families. And then Mr. Aker and Mr. Luther are meeting with their staff to discuss how to provide support to those families, because we don't want to just support them academically. Like, let's say you're taking an online, geometry class. Well, we don't want to leave them out there on their own. So if a student has a question about geometry, they still can contact Mr. Wagner and he will help them. But it's just that they might not be on the same lesson that the kids that are on site are learning. And we're really concerned as well about their social emotional well-being. So we're talking about ideas such as, even if you're in an online platform, could they Zoom a couple days a week for the elementary, the morning meeting, so they can still see their teacher and see their friends? And we don't want the kids who are doing online to feel isolated from the rest of the students, but we understand that that's their option is to be home. And like with the secondary, we've talked ideas like, could we do advisory? Could kids Zoom in during the advisory time? So they're really working hard to come up with ways to keep kids engaged and involved with their classmates, but just on a different platform. Oops. Okay, and then the distance learning plan, this is kind of that hybrid plan of if we're in school and then for some reason we have to shut down. But just a few highlights of that. It will be different from spring because it will be required, whereas in the spring it was voluntary. That's just not the case this time. And it'll be a combination of online and coursework, just very similar to spring. And then Mr. Aker and Mr. Luther are working with their staff to figure out how to make sure that happens. So our final thoughts in all this are whichever plan a family chooses, on-site or online, it'll be for the whole first semester. And then we'll reassess as it gets closer to the end of the fall semester to see, fingers crossed, maybe there's a vaccine, we close down for Christmas break, we come back and life is good again. I don't know, but we will reevaluate at Christmas time or right before the end of the semester. And then these policies that we're adopting are just emergency policies and they'll expire. So if we have to reevaluate them and re-implement them for the second semester, we will do that. Okay, that was a lot of me talking. So now I'm gonna stop screen share and open it up to questions. Okay, so if you are a participant who has a question, go ahead and do the hand raise and I will call on you. All right. Okay. Okay, Jewel, let's see. Joel, go ahead. Oh, he's still.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh.
I had a few questions actually. Going back to the 2 weeks of off, if you had a potential exposure for teachers, staff, etc.,
Mhm.
is that per exposure or is that just a one-time 14 days and that's your total?
Yeah, we're assuming it's every time because you wouldn't, I mean, there's potential that a different kid could get exposed. So it's every time.
Right, okay. I guess my next question would be regarding masks and that sort of thing, you know, PPE. I've heard different things. I'm going to try not to even include that, but would it just not be better to have kids wearing masks most of the time, especially in hallways, you know, between class periods and in common areas? And going along with that, would there be controlled entrance and exit with people taking temperature readings possibly?
We haven't, as far as the masks, yes, that's part of our plan. And as of right now, they aren't recommending the temperature things, but that absolutely could change. There's,
Okay.
we have like our lawyer is going to be on, I do it Wednesday and Friday Zoom every week with the Heartland area superintendents, and we have lawyers on, and we have Department of Public Health, different people on, and there's going to be a lawyer on Friday talking about that. So that definitely could be a possibility. It's not part of our plan right now, but we have considered that.
Okay. And I was going to ask about lawyers, but as far as like having PPE available for kids and teachers, has that also been ordered or is that going to be included?
Right. So we will, if we require it, we have an order ready to go tomorrow. So we will provide one mask for every student and teacher. And then if people want that beyond that, they can certainly buy their own or get more, but we'll provide one for everyone because since we're requiring it, we will do that.
Okay, fantastic. I guess then my last question would be for those who are either insisting or having their child go back on site, is there going to be a waiver, a COVID waiver of some kind to limit liability to the school?
We've talked about that as well. And from everything that we're hearing from the school administrators of Iowa, their attorneys have talked about that. And they said, as long as we aren't being overly reckless, like no school is, it would be almost impossible for someone to prove that their student or their staff member contracted COVID while they were at school. So they said it'd be easy to sue, but very hard to prove. So no school district will lose in a case like that, so we won't have a waiver unless, again, like our lawyer changes his mind before school starts. But as of right now, there isn't a waiver.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your questions, Joel. Is there anyone else who has anything? Oh, let's see, that was Joel. I'm gonna lower hand. All right. Last call for questions, and we're going to move on. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone zooming in and asking questions and just following. And I will, sorry, John, jump in. I'm going to go ahead and once we're done with the board meeting and if the board approves our plan and the board policies, I will send out that PowerPoint that I just went through. I'll put it on our website and then I'll send it through JMC. So any families that want to just look at it a little more closely or teachers that want to look at it more closely, it will be available to you.
You said one that frequently asked questions link too, just to make sure.
Yeah.
They can type on that if they lost the email earlier before.
Yeah, you bet. And I'll add that frequently asked questions link to that email as well. So far, I only had one question emailed to me, and it was about buses, which was an excellent question. A mom asked if students would be required to wear masks on the bus, and our answer is yes. And really, this is to help protect not only the kiddos, but our bus drivers, because a lot of our bus drivers are in at risk, we'll call it, category of, what is it, like 60 and over. So we just want to make sure that we keep our bus drivers safe. So that was an excellent question. And if people have more questions, feel free to email me and I will add them to that document and it'll be available for people to read at any time. So thank you, everyone.
We'll move to our
should I see if
next
anybody
item,
had-
which is the,
Does anyone else have anything not COVID related that they want to talk about in the open forum?
yeah, we'll open up the public forum now. So
Okay.
If
Okay.
anybody wants to put a question on Zoom, we'll address those now.
Okay. I don't see anybody else, but
Okay.
I think we're good there. Okay.
Anybody else public forum? Last call. Okay, we'll move on. We'll move on to our business items. And the first item under that is our building project update. So Dr. Clapper, do you want to kind of provide a briefing on that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have walked around or not, but our furniture's coming in. It's super exciting. Unfortunately, some of it, like the really fun, cool stuff, is on back order because of COVID. So we've got a lot of the cool stuff, but like some of the soft seating is just delayed, and they're hopeful that it will be here before school starts. They hope it'll be here at the beginning of August, but they just can't make any promises. But it's starting to look so good. And Story is starting to wrap up. Dale stopped in my office yesterday and said his goodbyes. It's like, Dale, gosh, if it wasn't for COVID, I would give you a hug. But so I had to just wave to him. But he has been wonderful, but he's moving on to another project. And Connor, who would be the engineer, is still here wrapping up everything. He'll be around for a couple more weeks, but it's wrapping up quickly. So it's just super exciting. And as far as that bench, I sent you guys a link to the bench. As long as I get a thumbs up from everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get that ordered. They can use the cement mix or whatever, the precast mix that they used for outside to exactly match it. And it's the ones very similar to what they had at Bondurant. Like John had seen some at Bondurant, and then Dale had worked on the Bondurant new high school project. So he went and took some pictures of it, and then talked to the company that made those. And so they'll be able to match our existing precast out there. So I think it'll look really sharp.
We can handle getting that installed ourselves.
I think so. I think it was like 750 pounds, but I mean, you use forks on a skid loader or that, so I think we can get it installed.
Okay.
It'll be pretty substantial, so.
Yeah, they're very solid.
That's for the south? Or
It's
gonna be on
out
the-
in front of the new high school
Okay.
entry. So, as the stairs, you can go down the stairs. It's kind of right out there in front of that. There's some little cement pads that were poured. So we're going to have the benches, for those of you who are just listening on Zoom, they're flat. They look really nice, but they're, you can sit either way, facing the street or facing the school. It'd just be a nice place for kids to, if they have outdoor, before school, after school, or waiting for their parents after practice, whatever. It'll just be a nice spot for a couple people to sit. It'll just be a good kind of clear indicator. And there is parking right there, so that will be a clear indicator also, like you stop before you drive into this area. So
they finished the whole punch list, the second one, they've got all those things
I think they're
done.
still working on a few things to get that finished up. Like I even just saw yesterday, I was walking around, there's some paint that needs touched up. And then even where the movers were moving some of the furniture, I saw a couple little scratches in the wall, so they'll have to touch all that up. So it's not finished, but it's pretty darn close.
I had a couple questions from the community about seeing the addition. I know with COVID and all that, is there?
Yeah, so
like a
that's
virtual tour?
well, that's actually what we talked about, was like some kind of a virtual tour, because we hate it that we have this gorgeous new building and we're not letting anyone in it.
Yeah.
What we talked about is, instead of having because we're not going to have a back to school night, and this is all in my superintendent report later, but we're not going to have back to school night, but we're hoping teachers could do a virtual tour of their classroom and that sort of thing. And then for the ribbon cutting, we're planning to do that just on the first morning when we have teachers back. So that'd be 17th or something, I think. Um,
new teachers, I think is 17th, isn't it?
I think they're the 14th.
Oh, 14th.
So I think the 17th, that morning is when we'd have like the whole staff back. So we thought maybe we could do like just a kind of a ceremonial ribbon cutting that morning so the staff could see it. And then, yeah, we'll do some kind of a video tour. And then as soon as this whole thing is over, we will absolutely open the building up and we would love to welcome the community in to see it. You know, maybe by Jolly Holiday night. I don't know. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
But if not, next summer, I don't know, like it's soon. As soon as it's safe to get people in our building, we will get them in here. But we'll try and do something virtual the best we can.
Okay.
It won't be the same, but it'll still be pretty cool. Maybe we can have Rob narrate it. He's usually pretty good at that kind of stuff. So, anything else? Building related, Julian, John, am I forgetting anything?
And I
Colette?
think the state has issued their occupancy permit, so I
Yep.
mean, the big things are done, it's just
Mhm.
kind of cosmetic, like
Yeah.
touch-ups and that now, so.
I do know that they're working on the rebate. If you remember at the beginning, we were gonna get a substantial rebate. And they have to actually walk through and make sure that we implemented those in order to get the correct amount of money for the rebate. And I do know that they're working on that because they contacted me a couple of times.
And that's through Lion Energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
What's the board's thought? Dr. Clapper talked about the bench. Are we okay with that?
Okay.
And I don't know, Julie, is that something that, I mean, we had some donations or that kind of stuff. Is that something that,
We do. I can sure reach out to them and find out.
see if that's something that they would like to
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's good.
have that used for?
yeah. You had mentioned something as well. Is that a thing or no?
Not yet.
Not
So,
yet.
yeah.
So I'll
I'll
just
go
throw
get it
up
out.
there that after prom too has, you know, a considerable amount of money they wanted to donate in memory of Roman.
Oh, nice.
They had some ideas other than a bench, but you know, I voiced, you know, to them that they wanted to do a mural in the gym, but you know, murals take upkeep and trying to steer them towards a different direction, a
Mhm.
bench.
Mhm.
So I just think that they maybe need some guidance from,
Okay.
um,
Who
Would
is
that be like Sophie's class?
that would be the graduating, this.
Oh, the ones that just graduated
Right.
now. So
Okay,
like
so-
state that,
So on after prom, I dealt with Sandra Kinney.
So I'm sorry, it would be the junior class. It would be
the incoming seniors.
Okay,
In memory of Ronan.
Okay.
okay.
No, let's see, do you know what parent was in charge of after prom?
So, well, it was Amanda Pierce, and now Lori Gowdy
Okay,
is,
Okay.
okay, I can reach out to Lori
Okay.
and,
We,
Ask
we-
her.
you know, we try to steer them away from things like anything that may take some upkeep, because, we love that they want to memorialize someone, you know, but then it costs the district money
Right.
for the upkeep and that. And, we've had a lot, you know, trees donated and then something happens and they die, or we need the area and we have to cut them down, or, I mean, you know, just things like that. So you try to think of something a little more
Permanent.
permanent, yeah. I know that we, were in need of a podium, a new podium. I don't think that we ever got that, did we?
I don't think we were, I think we were gonna get it for graduation and then
We didn't
it
have
all
that.
fell apart.
Yeah, and, you know, and so like the one that we had was, geez, it was donated, you know, a memorial, like the class of 57 maybe, I'm not even sure, you know, but it was a big sturdy wood, you know, and it lasted forever and ever and ever, you know. Well, it's just seen its better days, and so I know, you know, we're looking for podiums and, you know, just things that are a little more permanent, but maybe don't take constant upkeep.
yeah,
So,
I think they just needed some information,
Mhm.
education
Sure.
on how.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
even like a mural, I mean, that's good for like the next, what?
5 years.
5 years,
Right.
exactly, and then it's like, people are gonna say, oh, why do we have that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then, you know,
something
we
more
had a
permanent would
butterfly
be
garden,
nice.
you know, and then it doesn't, you know, get the attention that it needs, you know, and then people get upset and and I understand, I completely get it. I've been there and done that, you know, and so we just hope for something a little more permanent, you know, that doesn't take a lot of money.
Well, I'll reach out to Lori and like Debbie and Lori and I can talk. And,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, because we could probably get like a plaque or like a little
Yep.
something
Right.
on there that says
Yep.
in memory of
Yep.
Ronan.
Yeah.
So it's
We have-
honoring him.
So we are sitting on some additional memorial money that they weren't sure what they wanted to do with it. And so I'll reach out to those. We have a couple of different families. And so, you know, maybe with, I mean, I don't know how much we're talking here, but wasn't that
It's like 3,200 or 3,400,
and that's
something
one
like that.
bench? We're just doing one bench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was for the whole bid.
Yeah. So I don't, you know, they could go in with them and we can put it all on the little.
okay, thanks.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on building project? Nearing the end.
Can you believe it? We were just worried about where everybody was gonna go for the whole year.
Yeah.
We were trying to
Yeah.
find places for everyone to go. It's crazy.
Okay, next item under business items is the membership on the board. And that's a routine item. We need to state in our minutes it's a 5-member board and then who the actual members are. And I don't know, tonight, do we need to determine who
Nope.
serves as chairman or anything?
No, it kind of feels like this is a little out of place. And
It used to be, I think we did it with the election in September. wasn't it?
Yeah.
it's always, I don't know how it happened to be in July, in the July, but remember now, because your terms are up in November, now we have the organizational meeting in November. It may be next year that I get that all together and get it.
Just put it
moved,
in
because
November.
It's like, that seems like it's a little out of place, but yeah.
So tonight, we just need
Just
to
the
state in our
membership.
minutes, who the board members are, and it's a 5-member board, so. Do we have a motion to approve the continuation of a 5-member board, which currently consists of Corey Robinson, Colette Kunkel, Deb Meyer, Kim Tickey, and myself, John Multher. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Actions approved. Okay, our next item is a resolution to direct the County Commissioner of Elections to call an election to submit the question of continued participation in the instructional support program, which that we just earlier had the public hearing on.
You can tell the lawyers doing this. It's a lot.
So does anybody want to make that motion to approve the resolution calling for the election?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Do we need to do roll call on that, Julie?
Corey Robinson,
Yes.
Debbie Meyer,
Yes.
Colette Kunkel,
Yes.
Kim Tickey,
Yes.
John Luther.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is our annual review of board policies. And it looks like this year is the 100s through the 300s.
So just know that we'll be
So kind of put us on
Yeah,
notice.
on
that,
notice. Start reading the 100s through 300s.
Just a little light reading.
But I'm already done.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Colette, she's good at that.
Yeah. Everyone has their role.
Extra eyes.
Then the other ones are those COVID related ones that I talked about a little bit ago. And so these are like right out of IASB. The only one I have any question about is the very last one that I put on there. I hesitated to put it in there at all. And if you guys want it, it's like, yeah, 902 R1. And that just gets into very specifics about we will require hand washing, we'll require non-medical grade face masks, employees and volunteers are encouraged to monitor temperatures. And then due to increased costs to the district, providing additional cleaning and disinfecting measures in order to preserve cleaning supplies for school, the school will limit the use of for non-school activities. So I don't know that we necessarily want that policy, but I just wanted it for you guys to look at. Like if you want us to include it, we can, but if you don't want to, we certainly do not have to. We've covered everything else in the other ones. And the comments off to the side are Siobhan, she's the IASB lawyer. She's just kind of explaining where they added in different things.
So it talks about like or I don't know how that was stated, but basically use of the facilities for other than school activities. Would that be like rec stuff?
Yeah, so like that would say like we wouldn't allow rec to use the gym, we wouldn't allow Bay to use the school, we wouldn't allow anyone to rent the commons. And if that's what you want, we could certainly do that. I didn't want to just put that as a policy without conversation about it.
I mean, it's only for the first semester, right? And we're gonna reevaluate.
Or is there middle ground in there where they would clean after the use of facilities or put money towards paying our custodians to
Right.
do extra cleaning or something like that? I mean,
Yeah,
might be,
that's, this is the district may also require non-school groups to reimburse the district the actual cost of school personnel time needed to clean and disinfect school facilities after the event. That's the bottom, like there was kind of two options for those two paragraphs. So if you want to do that one, we sure could.
I'm just worried about it. They're gonna have a lot on their plate already.
Yeah.
We're gonna require them to clean up after a 4-H meeting.
our custodians,
Right.
yeah. Well, I guess at that point, if the club or whatever's paying for it, I guess I think that's where we can go out and hire some part-time or, somebody other than our regular custodians or, I mean, I think we've got 1 or 2 part-time, I need to give them more hours or something like that.
I'm thinking like with rec and stuff, they're just using the gyms, would our custodians be cleaning that area after they're done using it anyway? I don't know. I mean, they're not using like the commons area and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know, like, do some groups
Like,
use the
are you
commons?
gonna pick
Yeah.
certain groups or are you gonna
Well,
pick everyone?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, because we
I
have,
just feel bad.
I
Right.
get it, but we have 4-H who uses the West Commons, we have Bay who basically uses the whole school.
We've
And
got men's rec, we've
men's
got,
rec and regular
adult
rec.
rec.
That's why I'm saying it's just for a semester.
Well, and
I mean,
we could say
yeah.
it's for a semester, but that's all subject to change, I think. as
Yeah, it
well.
is. That's what I'm
Things
saying.
don't,
It's
like,
gonna,
I don't think we can say that anything that we're putting in place for the fall semester is only for the fall, because I think second semester is also gonna look different than.
right, but I'm saying we
Yeah.
can assess it that way.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it's probably not so bad not to let them. I mean, we're talking a semester. We're not necessarily saying that, okay, for 2 years you can't do this, where,
Well, I just think, some of those parents who have concerns about their kids
right.
wearing a mask during the school day, are they even gonna let their kids
Do rec activities.
do Bay or rec?
I mean, I hate this because,
I know.
rec, what are they gonna do?
So you're
But-
saying we can offer, if we decide to, they pay extra to clean the facility, the area that they used.
yeah,
That is an option.
that is definitely an option.
So is the question whether we're gonna adopt this policy or more like which one of these last
No,
paragraphs?
like, do you want that policy? Because we don't even have to have this policy at all, and then things would just be as they are now. Just kind of on a as needed basis, I guess. I mean, people are still using, now, through the summer, I don't think has anyone used the school really since we
No,
opened it back
we've
up? It's still been shut
Shut it
down.
down, yeah.
I think it'd be good to have this.
Okay. Yeah, so then we either just need to, if we want to have that policy, we just need to then pick either the first paragraph, at the very bottom, the first or the second paragraph. The one is nobody uses the school. The second one is you can use the school, but you may have to incur the cost of cleaning.
I think the second one seems reasonable.
And that's something maybe we need to discuss, like if Bay, they use the gym or something, maybe they need to just concentrate on
Limiting
using one area
spaces
for this
used. I agree.
semester or whatever,
I
instead
agree
of
with that.
The whole school.
whole school type
Yeah.
scenario.
And also, and I think they'll have to go by whatever we're doing, the custodians. I mean, learn from whatever they're doing, their cleanup regimen or whatever.
All the
Yeah.
high-
So
high
every
touch
little-
services.
Yeah,
Training
training,
class
so that make sure
Absolutely.
everything gets done
If you're gonna use
correctly.
the facility, here's how you clean up afterwards.
Right,
Or they could just pay the janitors.
Right.
Like they maybe have the
right,
option.
I
We-
mean, right, yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned about finding some additional part-time help, so, it may be that our own janitors, outside of their normal contracts decide to do it, and they just get paid that
Extra
bit.
little bit.
I mean, that would be my first choice.
Right,
is
rather
them,
than finding somebody
obviously.
else. Yeah.
I would just trust them more so. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go, is
So
this
you-
like do we have to
Yeah.
do 2 readings? So
Yeah.
so
can
next
go ahead
time
and
I'll
put that in
edit
there.
it so it just has that bottom part. And any questions on any of the other ones that I went through? The rest of them are the ones I talked through. I just didn't include that other one. I just wasn't quite sure what you'd want to do with that.
So this will serve as the first reading. And then
I
at our
think-
August meeting is when we would approve it. or-
So I think, to keep in line with the 100s to 300s, I think we'll have August be our first reading, and then, September be our second reading, and then we'll approve them.
But what if somebody gets
But I
COVID
think
before
we need
that?
I was
these
gonna
in
say,
place
we
before.
probably better
Better
do
do
it
it
now.
now.
Oh, okay,
Already.
yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah, okay, yeah,
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 the,
yeah, before
I
the
think we
school
need to look
starts.
at it as
Yeah.
the 100 to 300s are different than what we were.
Then this is
Okay.
like the
Okay.
emergency
Perfectly fine.
proclamation.
So
Yep.
what we've just discussed, which I'd say is COVID related.
Yep.
Those will serve as the first reading tonight.
Okay.
And then the second reading at our August
Okay.
meeting, at which time we can approve.
Okay.
And then the 100 and 300s,
Normal process.
yep, we'll talk about those at our next meeting, but it'll be September before we. Great. I got logged out.
Well, he's logging back on. Joel, the guy on the Zoom, about the temperature gauging and stuff. When you learn more about that, would you just let us know? Because I'm curious as to what they talk about and how that would work. And, if I can't see like meeting the kids at the door as they're entering the school, everybody getting a temperature, but I could see that happening in each classroom, in each home, class or
Like in the first period class
first
or.
period class and for the
K-12.
entire school, yeah. I mean, it's easy, I
Mhm.
mean. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
we can
I'm just-
sure check
I'm
on
just
it.
interested in
Yeah.
what they.
Yeah, we should know more even Friday. And they did talk about that it was not recommended to do it as they're getting on the bus because of the
Yeah.
worries of,
Well,
Like, what if a-
that'd be such a rigmarole.
well, and then what about for the bus drivers as well? Like, what do we do if there's a little one who's getting on the bus, mom and dad are already gone for work, and they have fever, we leave them at home? Like, what do we do with them? Like, at least if they're here,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're
So at
on
least
your
if they're
own.
here, we can like, they do talk about having like a quarantine room almost, that like, if there's kids who are sick or have a fever, they'll, go to Sarah's office and then we'll kind of have a holding place for them or something.
Well, we
until
knew that large area was
Yeah.
gonna come in handy.
Who would have thought it needs to be filled with cots? But
Yeah.
so yeah, so I'll let you know as soon as we know more about that. But that was the one that's kind of up in the air. Like for baseball, softball, when I talked to Drew Matt Carver, he would be SAI's lawyer. He said, don't do temperature checks. Put that on the parents that they need to have the responsibility to do that. He said because baseball, softball, it's outside. What if a kid had to ride their bike to practice? what if it's just 100 degrees out and kids are hot and then you think they have a fever? And he's like, that put the ownership and the responsibility on the parents. So but I don't know if they'll change their tune on that or not. So I'll definitely keep you posted as things evolve. Because again, like I've said even before, like this is a draft. Things are changing all the time. Like I know like you and Kim both work in healthcare, so I'm sure you see it all the time. But
Do any of you, like the Iowa Department of Ed's Facebook page? So they were having some conversations on, did you see that?
Yeah.
And how people are talking. You can sort of gauge what people are thinking or, you know, parents, you know, and how they feel about it. So it's kind of interesting reading. So.
And you know, typically we're supposed to have every Thursday there's a Zoom with the Department of Education that they were supposed to give you updates. Well, they canceled it last week because people were gone or something. They canceled it tomorrow, so we don't have. So it's frustrating.
And who's this with?
The Department of Education. So it's just yeah, it's quite frustrating. But I understand their hands are also tied because it all comes from the top down, so they can't give us information that they don't have. So I mean, I'm not blaming the Department of Ed. It's just we are just craving information. Someone tell us what to do, and we will be glad to do it. But I'm not a public health expert. That's why we're just so heavily leaning on Jasper County. But Jasper County is trying to lean on the Iowa Department of Public Health. And from what I understand, just in these superintendent conversations, there's discrepancies between what Jasper County Public Health is telling us and what maybe Story County Public Health is telling their schools and what Polk County, and you know, in this district, we have kids in Jasper County and Marshall County. So, I mean, we live in Marshall County. So
You have two different sets of rules.
yeah, different sets of rules. And so it's just, they need a unified vision as well. And it's not any shade on the county public health. They're doing the very best they can. They're trying to interpret the rules the best they can, just like every school district in the state's trying to interpret these rules the best we can and make a plan. So it's frustrating. But as soon as I know more about thermometers, I will be glad to pass it on. Yep.
Are you still meeting with the other superintendents?
Yep, that's once a week. So
How many?
every Monday at 1
Okay.
o'clock. And if any of you are interested, you're welcome to, I can give you the link and you can zoom in and listen. We've only just had one so far and it was very interesting, they were very forthcoming. Like that's where I learned all that quarantine stuff and all the stuff about the presumed positive and actual positives. And Rob and Jason and Sarah were also on it. Sarah's our school nurse for those online. Yeah, and so it was Linville Sully, PCM, Newton, us, Colfax Mingo, and then I believe Newton Christian and Sully Christian had their administrators on as well. Because all our plans are slightly different, but we're all trying to kind of come up with similar metrics just so that we're all kind of in just consistency. It's kind of like a snow day. It's a lot easier when everybody around us is calling a snow day than to go out on our own and be the only school in Iowa that called off school for snow. You know, sometimes maybe that's the case, but it's just nice to have strength in numbers.
So I think one of you asked about.
I just, yeah.
Did you get an answer to that?
I don't, no.
I
So
didn't see it.
so I did have a question. If we have, probably not in the first semester, but weather days, if we have some online options, is that an option to not have to call up school anymore?
Well, one would think, but no. I guess if we called it a COVID day that happened to be snowy, but no, snow days, for whatever reason, snow days are not allowed to be used as online learning days.
That's a Department of Ed
That's a
thing?
Department of Ed thing. Actually, I think it's state legislature thing the Department of Ed is not necessarily making the rules. They're just given the laws and then they have to try and interpret them.
Yeah.
So this isn't the Department of Ed saying no. This is the legislature saying no, we won't count those as snow days.
So, I know last time we met, you said if we started school earlier, that those hours didn't count. Has that changed since?
Nope.
That has not changed?
Nope. So those hours, so like if we, say we wanted to start school on, because they waived the start date. So you could start before August 24th. But if any days before August 24th don't count towards your 1,080 hours, the clock for school starting doesn't start until August 24th.
Okay.
So, I mean,
That seems.
It's
yeah.
kind of like you can work extra but not get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So lots of interesting
One more
choice.
thing.
You
One more
bet.
question.
You bet.
So the masks that are provided by the school, are those the masks required for kids to wear? Can they bring their own?
They can absolutely bring their own. Those, we're just, since if you guys, approve this plan, since we're requiring it, what we've been told is that then we have to provide a mask for everybody. And they're all like the rewashable or reusable. I don't know that I have the exact
on my
one.
desk. Are you talking about the
We've got some, I mean, they're kind of cute. They're, Mr. Luther ordered, oh, here's one, I got one.
You got one?
They come in child and adult sizes, and then we're also having them for sale, like if you want one. You can, $5. I've already sold a few. So yeah, we got these, not this one, yeah, this one's mine. But yeah, so then people can wash them, and obviously you can get homemade ones, or I got a whole bunch at Old Navy the other day for pretty inexpensive. I'm sure we've all got them. And then we're gonna try and order a handful of extras, so if people forget them, we can loan one out. I was at McFarland Clinic with Trice a couple weeks ago, and they had a basket of of cloth ones that if you didn't have a mask, you could use theirs, and then as you were exiting, you just dropped it in a box, and then they washed them. So we could do something like that. We may order a few the disposables, but I mean that's gonna get, like, I was kind of laughing with the 190,000 or what we saved. We'll spend a lot of that in COVID. It's not going to be, it's almost like a trade for a trade.
The thing about Debbie's question about the thermometers, I just kind of did a quick Google thing. If there's grants out there, I found something from FEMA, which I don't know if it applied to schools or not, but it might be something worth.
Right.
If you can get free thermometers.
And we can get one free one for sure from the Department of Education. One, yeah, we can get one for sure. They might be able to get more, but so far, I haven't even checked. I don't know if Sarah has it, but it was, you could apply on the website, and so anybody that applied got one, and then hopefully more. But they're the gun scan ones.
This one says Iowa has, from FEMA, got 4,300 of them, so.
Okay.
might be worth-
Yeah, it might be worth checking.
300 schools.
For schools,
Right.
Corey,
So if they
specifically,
don't-
or? is
Well, I
that-
don't know, it just says FEMA, and I haven't read through it.
Oh, okay.
But it says essential businesses.
Which I would think we are.
Business employees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I will definitely check on that.
check, I mean, just like say to cut back, save some money hopefully somewhere,
Mhm.
or mass maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
something like that, mask
So if
or-
we require it, we need to pay for them.
Mhm.
If we recommend it,
Then we don't have to pay for it.
we don't have to pay for it.
We have an order. We have the ones I just showed you. We just ordered those earlier in the summer. And then we're actually, the plan is if we approve this, they're required, we'll order, it's ready to go. We just have to call them tomorrow and they'll start printing them. It's through Graphic Edge. And they're, I think, $2.75 a piece.
So we had talked about selling them for $7 as a student council fundraiser
Oh,
to community.
well, we were selling them for $5. I think I texted Rob because somebody asked me about them and I was selling them for $5.
Does that cover shipping? Because it was $3 something.
Well, hey, I don't know. I've only sold a couple, so we can up our price. Right.
That was an early.
That was
season
an
deal.
early season deal. That was just to get the interest flowing.
Today only.
Yeah. I'm not a very good salesman. I don't know. So if you want any of the $5 ones, get them quick before they're sold out, and the $7 ones. So.
Okay, anything else? Okay, let's move on to our next item, which is the return to learn plan that Dr. Clapper went over earlier. Anybody have any additional questions on that? It was covered pretty thoroughly. Anybody want to make a motion to approve that plan as presented? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Return to learn plan is approved as presented. Next item is open enrollment. In and a couple out.
Yep, so we have Kendall Stevenson is from Newton, and she's gonna be a 10th grader, and she's open enrolling to us. And then the other one is from Darren and Shelley Wing for their son Taylor, and he's gonna be a kindergartner coming here from Collins Maxwell. And then do we do the out right away?
We'll do the
Okay.
incomes first. Anybody have any questions on those? Do we have a motion to approve the open enrollment in applications as presented? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Open enrollment in applications are approved as presented. Okay, now the open enrollment out.
And then this is from Jessica and Justin James for their children Jonas and Jeremiah. They had already attended Colfax Mingo and they recently moved and their house just happens to be in the Baxter district, but they want to stay at Colfax Mingo.
We have a motion to approve the open enrollment out application as submitted. We have a second. All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Open enrollment out application is approved.
We've heard from some open enrollment families who we previously approved that may not end up going here because of the COVID. If we're going to require masks and things like some, if we require it, they're not going to send their kids, and if we don't require it, they're not going to send their kids. So just put that in the back of your mind that some of those that we've approved may end up not.
Move on to personnel. Looks like we have resignations.
Yep, so we have Amanda Pierce as drill team coach and cheer coach. And then Maria Stefani as assistant volleyball coach. Those are the resignations. And then contracts for Zachary Archer, K-12 vocal music, Madison Hulk, 3rd grade. Maria Stefani as head volleyball, so she's not really leaving, she's just moving up to head. And then Lydia Bland as assistant volleyball.
Which is her daughter.
Yeah.
Marie Stefani's daughter.
So we've got all our elementary teachers covered now.
Where's the Stephanie?
She Ankeny?
She is from Ankeny. She was the.
She was
JV
Joe's,
coach
yeah.
last year.
She sort of came with
Joe.
Joe
Okay, she had the dark hair.
Yeah, long hair.
Yeah, I
I
sort of
didn't know her name.
Yeah, I sort of anticipated her to resign, since he did as well. And she signed her contract as assistant, and then everything else sort of fell through. And then, so then we asked her if she could have a
So we're still looking for a dance team coach and a couple like assistant junior high coaches and things like that. And I know Mr. Luther is kind of working on that. And we put something on Facebook again yesterday. And I know there's a couple people who are interested in the dance position. So we just need to get their applications in. And then we're looking for a handful of paras. One thing I should mention, I guess, with the COVID, we might need a few extra hands. Like we might consider, we might want Sarah more than she leaves at 1. We might need to consider, just depending how busy she is,
She every day until?
every day until 1.
Okay.
So I don't know yet if we'll need her to stay all day or if she'd even be willing. And we've also talked about with lunch, we may need a couple extra because we're gonna have to sanitize hands and sanitize before they go outside. We just don't know exactly yet, but there may be some added expense, even just some temporary that we have to add some hours or get some part-time paras that are just a couple hours a day over the lunch hour to help with lunch and then reset. We're still working out details, but just know that that's potential.
I think she's already 6 hours a day, is that right?
Yeah, I think she stays till 1 or 1:30 or something like that.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the 2 resignations as presented? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Resignations are approved. And Do we have a motion to approve the new contracts as presented? Second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Contracts are approved. Next item is 28E agreements.
Okay, 28Es. Oh, so this is the one from the West Academy. That's just
What's our alternative?
alternative
It's
school.
there if we need it. We haven't
Yeah.
used it recently, I don't think.
They're full. I mean, we sign it in case there's a chance, but I think even if we needed it, they're full. I think they use it.
Okay, and then the other, I
What would
think,
we do though if we needed to send it and they're full?
I don't know if we could.
Orchard Place.
Yeah, or there's other probably.
There's other places that we probably, we in fact have, in an emergent situation, they go to probably the Des Moines Hospital, and Des Moines Hospital then generally just, they go on to Orchard Place then after that, and Orchard Place is considered part of the Des Moines Public Schools. Or there is one in Cedar
Rapids, I think. There's 4
We've had some kids over there.
And then the DMAC one, I put that in there, and I think that I put it maybe in the wrong spot because it's just all it is an agreement that we let DMAC students. It's not they're not student teachers yet, but they're practicum, so they come in and observe our teachers, and we just have an agreement that we let them do that.
We do that with Iowa State and UNI, so. those
And
contracts
DMAC
we
just
can't-
sends theirs, like he just sent it to me a couple weeks ago.
Okay, any questions on that? Do we have a motion to approve the 28E agreement with Newton for the West Academy? We have a second? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. 28E agreement with Newton for the West Academy is approved. And the next one would be the DMAC agreement, the sharing agreement for student teaching observation hours. Do we have a motion to approve that agreement? Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign. Sharing agreement with DMAC's approved. Moving on to the agenda, we're to facilities, grounds, and transportation.
I know that Deb has met with Jason Sampson.
Yep, I
and-
met with him too.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yep.
Great
Real
guy.
impressed with him, yeah.
Super
Has a
guy.
Pretty full service garage. The only thing he doesn't do is engine overhauls. He's got a bus lift, does brakes, tires,
In Nevada, yeah.
so we need to get the buses up there. But like the state inspection, he looked that over and all those items, he says, no problem. He says, I think we're kind of on a schedule, we're gonna take a bus up, get the first one up there, we'll have it a week, and then we'll take another one up, bring it back. So by the time school starts, he'll have all those items addressed. So there was one bus that he agreed, Meckley's had looked at the state inspection and determined that it was probably gonna be too expensive to fix, wasn't gonna be worth it. And the transportation director, when we went out and looked it over, and he agreed that that one's probably not cost effective to keep, so we'll put it out of service. So
Was that one that we just used for activities or something like that?
yeah, it was the oldest bus. It was an 03, I think. So, or actually second old. There's an 02 but it's in a lot better shape. I don't know why, but
Was that 03? Was that the one that we bought used?
I don't remember, I guess, if it was or not.
That might be the 05, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I was impressed with, I think that'll be a good opportunity. Work with him. And he actually, we had number 12, which had engine codes again. That's the one that we put a new motor in a year ago. and it was like in limp mode, so we're gonna have to tow it down to Cummins or haul down there, but he has a laptop and he was gonna bring it down and hook it up and read what the codes were to see, and sometimes he said I might be able to do like a forced regen on it, and at least get it so we can drive it down there to him, but anyway, I'm
Yeah.
afraid that bus is kind of.
It's kind of a lemon, yeah.
So,
What's his last name again?
Sampson, Jason Sampson. Yeah. Great guy. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good fit.
good.
Yeah.
Good, so.
All right.
Does he think we can share any of their drivers?
I didn't actually meet with him. It was just
I don't think
he
so.
and
Deb
Deb.
kind of brought it up and he's like, yeah, join the club. I mean, she's
Yeah.
like, you got any leads on
Yeah.
drivers?
Yeah.
And he's like, man. So, yeah, I think it's every person for themselves
Yeah,
kind
I'm
of trying
really
to
worried,
find drivers.
you know, with Carrie not coming back and.
He did
Are
talk
we
about
short
that,
on
I
a
guess.
bus driver right now?
Nevada uses,
Maybe two.
there's like a
There.
bus driver school up in Mason City. It's like a 2-day thing. And after you complete that, you get your license or whatever. Well, it's like $400, I think. But he said Nevada's been using that. And Deb thought that sounded like a good, if we found somebody who was interested but didn't have their license, that we could utilize that program to get them trained and get their license. So.
Good. Yeah, sounds great. Okay.
Anything else on facilities, grounds, transportation? Move on to superintendent's
Yeah,
report.
last thing here. Yeah, like I said in my report here, most of my time has been consumed with this return to learn, reopening schools plan, but it feels good to have something down on paper finally. Graduation went really well. Big thanks to everybody who helped. I mean, I don't know how many people said it was really cool outside. Like, not cool, like it was hotter than heck, but it was really neat outside that day. So it might be something we want to consider, like, as an option. It was kind of just a cool experience. So I was so thankful that we finally got to do something for those kiddos. So it was a special day. It was great. Got to help supervise baseball and softball a few times. It was fun to, just see people again and see kids out there playing and doing something and, just a little tiny bit of normalcy. And unfortunately, both teams have lost, so they're done for the season. But we made it through the season without having to shut down because I know there was a lot of schools that didn't make it that far. So
Especially from the 4th of July weekend, they think
Yeah.
that that's what's contributing to it.
yeah, so we made it that far. Yeah, so and summer workouts have started for the other sports, football and volleyball and basketball and just all the other things have started. So they're starting to work out. Building projects wrapping up. So I put in there that's where I put about the ribbon cutting and not having a normal open house just since we're trying to limit visitors. And I did get a text from one of our administrators who said, we really want to think long and hard about letting people in our building. And I agree. So we just want to be really careful. If we've been so careful all summer long and since March to keep the building clean.
I think our custodians are gonna be taxed so much already.
Right. We
And
just
if
don't
they're just
know.
chasing their tails,
Mhm.
they just get this part sanitized and then we let somebody from the community in and now they're chasing their tails again to do that again.
Yeah.
And I get, but how many parents are gonna let their kids go to that no matter where they are, go to those functions, no matter where they locate,
Mhm. So we'll just have to think about it. And when we do that second reading of those COVID things, if we have more thought on it. I mean, I kind of just sprung it on you, so you didn't really even have time to think through it very much. So, maybe even between now and then I can visit a little more with Pam and say, like, what do you think? Is that going to be overwhelming for you? And, I don't know if, like, say 4-H, if they could use somewhere. I don't know. I don't know if they could use a community building or a church or something, or could they maybe use one of the churches? I don't know, but we'll just have to see, because if our whole thing is yeah, really. So if our whole thing is trying to keep our building as clean as possible so we can keep our doors open, so we can keep having school, we just really have to, keep, I mean, like,
Those, they probably aren't even gonna.
that could be as well, Yeah, and you know, like even now, like with the library open, we've talked about just, have you noticed those like black kind of chains that are blocking? We'll probably keep those up. So people can still use the library even when school's open, but we'll limit library patrons to not using the school. So we'll just have to be just thinking about how this could possibly look, and just knowing that the sooner we can get it over, the sooner we can just go back to normal. So, okay, so that was that. And then, you know, honestly, Jason and Rob and I finally had a chance to sit down. We Zoomed with Rob, but Jason and I were together, and we said, okay, enough with like COVID, like either way, school's still opening. So we need to like start thinking about like, what is PD gonna look like? And we got to work on the back to school letter and like all that stuff. So we made a hard line in the sand, like by next Friday, we're gonna have a bunch of like the just normal back to school stuff
So
done.
find out our teachers.
Oh,
That
yeah,
kind of stuff.
I don't know,
School
maybe.
supplies, my kids said, when are we going to school supply shopping?
Yeah. I saw them at Target and I was like,
Oh my gosh, I know.
But I mean, like we'll honestly probably want to add things to the school list, like a mask.
Yeah.
And I know not everyone will be able to get one, but so we'll provide one, but you know, that's probably a smart thing to add to the school supply list. And I know we've talked also about not sharing supplies. So Jason was going to talk with Mrs. Gaffney about art supplies. So could, you know, like kind of every kid has their own little art pack, and, you know, just figuring out what is it that's going to be needed. And because we don't want to share markers and just weird stuff that we haven't ever really had to worry about until, but whatever we need to do to get this ended sooner, we're going to try and do it. So so anyway, next Friday, we're trying to have like all our kind of plans made, because I'm leaving on Saturday to go on vacation. So I'm like, they can make all their detailed plans after that, like their building level plans. But I said, I want to be able to go on vacation and shut this off and know that my stuff for the next little bit is done. So we're working on that.
Are things like PE and music and band still in the schedule, I guess?
Yeah, so they are, and there's some different guidance. Like the Music Association sends out quite a bit of stuff, and they've talked about different options, and like some of it is encouraged, like music outside for as long as we can have kids outside. PE, if we can have them outside. I don't know if they can do band outside. I suppose they do marching band. Excuse me, but I do know that there's guidelines that are coming out from those different associations that help plan for that. And some of it might be like, especially with like the little kids, maybe more, I don't know what they do in music, like rhythm and that kind of stuff, you know. I don't know if they'll be like singing, or maybe I suppose with masks they could sing. I don't know. So yeah, there is talk though of how that's gonna look.
I wonder if we're gonna have our vocal concerts, you know?
Well, I don't know how we could have that many people.
Right.
And if we're not letting them in the building, we'd have to just,
Well, even for
Zoom it.
kids to be standing that close together,
yeah.
they'd be having to wear a mask
Mhm.
while they're singing.
Mm-hmm. So, and I
More
shared,
microphones.
yeah, and I got some really good guidance. That video that you shared, that was really interesting. I might link that with our, just as like a resources on the last, maybe I'll add a slide that's called resources. And it was some links from the CDC, and I could probably link the American Academy of Pediatrics, that document that we used to build the plan. Because we really did try and use like as much data as we could to build this plan. It wasn't just like, well, Michael and Rob and Jason think we should do this, so this is what we're doing. We really tried to use recommendations from the experts. And so I really appreciated that video that helped just explain, even to me, like, you know, they say masks are important, but then watching the science behind like why that works, it was very interesting. So appreciate that. All right, other than that, just, you know, living the dream here at Baxter.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Clapper?
No, thank you all. I know you guys have all been working a ton to figure it out.
It'll be nice to just like have a normal year, like next year at this time. Hopefully the building will be done, COVID will be over. We can just laugh about, remember how crazy it was when
Yeah, that'll be.
we'll look forward to that day. Oh, Julie, glass half full. It's gonna be over.
That's right.
So, yep, that's all I got then.
Anybody else have anything? Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned.
All right, thanks everyone who zoomed in. I'm gonna end the meeting now.